When working in an agency, you're going to get people who complain about lead quality, but when you look deeper, you notice that they're not necessarily following up with the leads like you feel like they should, maybe as quickly as they should, or with the scripting that you're giving them, or the type of personality that's on the phone. So how do you address this as a marketer, as an agency? How do you address this with your client in the most productive way? This topic is exactly what we covered today in our Ask Me Anything. We went over a couple of things that you can do as an agency to prevent this from happening, but also when it does happen, how to have a productive conversation with your clients. So let's go ahead and jump in. Question: did you come across a situation where the client was not calling the leads quickly, complaining of bad lead quality? How did you communicate with the client? Oh my gosh. Yes. Let's unpack this because this is actually a pretty big one. We had this all the time. One of the things that we made sure that we did right away is set expectations before we even launched the ad, while we launched the ad, right? We launched the ad with them. They had 24 hours really before leads started coming in, sometimes sooner. But on our onboarding call, what we would do is we had a little graphic that we showed them. A lot of people have never used or worked with Facebook leads before. They're used to referrals. We had doctors that we worked with. They would get referrals from clinics, from other hospitals, from other partners that they knew. Those people were really warm. They showed up to their appointment. They were really easy to sell. And Facebook is very different. So once we did their onboarding call, we would reset their expectations and educate them before anything happened. And that's one of the tickets, right, is making sure you're managing that expectation before everything begins. Because they're already coming in with a mindset of what's going to be happening. It might be right on, it might be way off. And in my experience, most people had no idea what to expect when it came to Facebook ads. So on those onboarding calls, right after we launched the ad, that was always the next step. So we would say, okay, have you ever, and this is exactly what I would say. I'll pretend you're one of our customers. I would say, have you ever run a Facebook ad before? If they said yes or no, it doesn't matter. I would still say the exact same thing. If they said yes, I'd be like, great, you already kind of have an understanding of what happens with Facebook leads. If they'd say no, I'd be like, let me kind of share with you a couple of things that you can expect because they're different than a referral, okay? And so we would talk about what I just explained. You have someone, let's say I loved you guys. My back was hurting. We work with chiropractors. Let's say my back hurt. You guys, I came in to your clinic. You helped me feel a million times better. I'm doing great. My mom, now her back is hurting. I'm going to tell her to see you. She's going to be really easy to book. She's going to probably show up for her appointment, and she's probably not going to be a hard sell, right? It's because my mom has something called borrowed credibility. She trusts you because she trusts me. And with Facebook leads, they do not have that. You have to gain that trust with them. The only way that you can do that right up front are your Google reviews. So how are your Google reviews? Let's make sure we work on those. And then your follow-up. How quickly are you reaching out? We are going to be sending a text because ours, I'm sure yours probably is very similar. Whenever a new lead would come in, automatically they'd get a text message, right? So how quickly are you calling? And then how often are you calling until they answer the phone? What's the person on the phone like? All of those things are really important. So we would set the stage for them before we got to the conversation of like no one's answering lead, like no one's complaining about bad lead quality. So setting that expectation up is step number one. Step number two, now this is a really cool thing that we started implementing and it was really powerful. And it's called a ghost lead, which essentially, before I get to ghost lead, let me back up. After our onboarding call, we would send them a training video of our recommendations for lead calling. So we would say, call them as quickly as you can within 5 minutes where possible. Obviously, if they're signing up at midnight, you don't need to call them at midnight, but call them in the morning. And then here's the rest of our protocol. Call them 3 times the first day, 2 times the second day, 2 times the third day, and then once for the next 4 days. And then after that, you can just let the text go, is usually what we would do. Your protocol doesn't have to be that same thing. But, so that's what we would train them on. Then the ghost lead, which is what I was going to get into, is you sign up as a lead and you see how they do. So you know, you've got your little report card and you can see, did they sign up or did they call you within 5 minutes? How often did they call you? What did that look like? And I just wouldn't answer for, however many days you want to give it to give them a score. But that is extremely powerful because it puts you in a position, like right now, I don't know if you're doing this already or not, but it puts you in a position of information, right? You're like, well, and we would tell them like, we are going to be doing ghost leads where we sign up for your services. So just be aware of that. We are doing that. We just want to make sure you're taking care of your leads. It's really important that you follow up with them. And when you start it off that way, then that expectation is okay. And when it comes up that you say, okay, we did do a ghost lead. Here's how you did. These are the things we really loved. These are the things we need to improve on. And maybe it's a script or something that they need, or do one lead where you never answer and then do another lead where you answer and see how they do over the phone. I probably wouldn't book an appointment unless you wanted to test that part of the process. But those are 2 really powerful things that you can do right off the bat. And the other thing that I would do, instead of giving them the information, even though we've sent them all this training, I would get on the phone with them and I would say, walk me through what you do when you get a new lead. What does that look like? Take me through your lead calling protocol. And I would ask them, even though we've already given all this to them, people who usually complain about this maybe haven't watched it or have forgotten it already, right? So I would ask them to tell me before I tell them, okay, well, this is what we recommend, and just reinforce that. But I want them to admit to me what it is that they're doing so that I can see and start to poke holes, right, in their process. That was really powerful, because if I just tell them, hey, this is what we recommend for calling leads, are you doing this? They'll be like, yes. 9 times out of 10, they will say yes, even if they're not doing it. So always get them to admit what they're doing in a kind way. It's not gotcha anything. It's just trying to have a productive conversation. So walk me through what you do with your leads. Okay, here's what I'm hearing. This is actually what we need you to do, and this will help. And then the last thing is scripts. We record our phone calls. When we set up their account, we would turn on their call recording, but there's a reporting tab, and under there is call reporting, and it will show you all of the recorded phone calls. So you can just go down the line and kind of just listen in and see how are they doing over the phone? Are they actually getting these horrible leads? Even if they're not using it to do outbound calls, you're still going to get inbound calls, and you're going to be able to hear those. If I ever had people who were complaining about stuff like that, I would listen to those. And then if I found any that I thought this is not great, I would download it and I would email it to the owner and say, hey, here's what I'm seeing. I just did a quick audit of your account and this is what I found. Let me know what you think about this and if you have any questions on it. And usually that was also a very productive conversation. It's one thing to say, this is what we want you to do and point fingers, but it's another thing to actually have that information applicable.